Oh my God. Let me show you what I got. This beat is so hot. Oh my God.
Is that bullshit?
I think not.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Candy Shop Fantasy Football Podcast, a part of the Fantasy Six Pack Audio Network. I'm your host, Dylan Clemens, and with me, like always, is the candy to this shop, the Mike and Ikes themselves, Michael Plant and Ike Bonnie. Fellas, how you doing today after one game into the week 4 NFL season?
Doing good.
Good, man. Mike, you're muted.
I'm doing well. It's it's sad that we're almost a quarter of the way through, but I'm doing well. How about you, Dylan?
Yeah, it is wild that we're already a quarter of the way into the season, but at least the game last night was pretty good for the most part. Unfortunately, we had some injuries. Micah Parsons going down, Malik Neighbors with a concussion, possibly, definitely not ideal there, but it was pretty ideal seeing the way that the Giants just force feed that man. What do you say, Ike, about Malik Neighbors?
He should be an easy wide receiver too moving forward. Wide receiver one's possible,
yeah.
but I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he'll see as many touchdowns to get there.
He's a low end wide receiver one, man, just based on the volume. He has 35 receptions through 4 games.
Well, yeah, that's cool, but I'm sure people are going to start figuring it out now.
I mean, the way I saw that he was being used in his motions to get open, Dable was clearly making a statement that, he was going to get him open.
But I feel like we knew this. Everybody kind of figured he was going to see about 130 to 50 targets. What I'm more impressed is by Wandale seeing more
I was
than
just gonna bring that up. Yeah, wasn't that?
targets.
Are we buying into Wandale Robinson now? Because we've kind of been sitting on the fence. He was kind of someone who I was targeting late in drafts. I kind of liked him. He's a short yardage guy. What are your thoughts on him, Mike, moving forward now? After he's seen double-digit targets, I want to say 2 or 3 times out of the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if he's going to keep receiving the double-digit targets, he's at least a flex play. I'm trying to find it here.
It's just not a huge ceiling because it's all like yak stuff because it's so short.
It's all
I was
yeah.
gonna
It's all
say
underneath.
he's kind of getting the Saquon Barkley targets, like the ones that Barkley would get on the short yards. They're kind of given to Wandale, where like on the short little drag routes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is pretty good to see their offense operating in like a real NFL offense, though. You don't always
Running game looked brutal
from the Giants. Yeah, that's gonna happen sometimes for sure. But before we jump into our week 4 great game previews, I just want to remind everyone, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and hit that bell for notifications so you know when this show goes live, or the Fantasy Six Pack Hour on Thursday nights, or any other show for that matter. Then head on over to fantasysixpack.net/plans to become an all-access member. Everybody, that's where you get access to our award-winning rankings, access to our draft cheat sheets. We got fantasy hockey, fantasy basketball coming up here pretty soon. Definitely going to be using the cheat sheets for all my drafts there. You also get access to our F6P Discord, where you get custom advice for your leagues and your DFS builds on Sunday. You can ask Chris Robin, Dave Eddy, Keith Fleming, any questions you want with the direct access to our F6P team on the Discord. And guys, all that for just $9.99 a month. And once again, that's fantasysixpack.net/plans. But guys, let's just go ahead and jump right into things. In our first game, that we're going to talk about here is the New Orleans Saints taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Saints are +2 on the road here. We got some injury news with the Saints. Alvin Kamara's questionable with hip and ribs. You don't like seeing that. Chris Olave was even added to the injury report, which wasn't great. That was today too, with a hamstring injury. But Ike, we'll go ahead and start with you. With all those injuries, who is your sweet player in this matchup for the Saints? Who are you all in on? Well, from this matchup, sorry.
You can do an easy one with Bijan, but everybody knows that he's pretty solid all the way through. I think the one to pick is either Rashid Shaheed or Taysom Hill. especially if Alvin Kamara's out. I think Taysom Hill is going to get a lot more work. Also, Jamal Williams too, but he's kind of risky to start in shallow leagues. But
I don't think Alvin Kamara will be out. He was limited practice,
but still,
today, and
he will be limited in the game. For at least I think so. But either way, I kind of like Taysom Hill or Shaheed on a deep pass 1 or 2 times. They missed last week a few times, so it just depends on the connection.
Yeah, well, Shaheed's due this week after goose egging us last week, Mike. And I remember talking to you and Jordan on the Sunday show when we're telling everybody to start Rashid Shaheed. And I go,
He
guys.
had the 2 targets deep.
Yeah, he did. I'm like, guys, there's going to be one of these weeks here pretty soon that he's going to hit us with a 0. And then shit, it was on Sunday. But that's what you're going to get from somebody like Rashid Shaheed. You just got to hope he booms more than he busts. But, Mike, we'll kick it to you right away, my friend. Who are you all in on in this Saints-Falcons NFC South divisional matchup?
I mean, I kind of alluded to it a little bit here for like Rashid Shaheed. I mean, he dropped 2 touchdowns, and 2 touchdowns last week completely changes my sweet player for this week, and that's Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr against this Falcons secondary. I know it's improved since last year, so it's, you take it with a grain of salt. But week 18 last year against the Falcons, he finished his QB1 with 27.2 points. So this is the 14th best matchup for QBs. It's just easier to throw on the Falcons right now than it is to run the ball, which is a little bit odd to say because of who they have in the secondary. So, like, if Shaheed catches those 2 touchdowns last week, Carr does not finish his QB 29. So I'm all in on Carr this week. I think Olave plays. They're playing it safe. I think, Kamara plays, all that fun stuff. But, I mean, with the pros and the cons, the con of Derek Carr having a good week is meaning Kamara's my sour player. All right. Like I said, it's harder to run against the Falcons than it is to throw the ball right now. You just can get more yards through the air than you can on the ground against the Falcons. They're the 4th toughest matchup for running backs. They've only allowed 1 touchdown to a running back through 3 weeks. In week 2, the Falcons held Barkley to his only game under 100 rushing yards so far this year, and his worst finish, which, if you can believe it or not, was just RB10. But Kamara finished his RB15 last week. He's, 3rd in the target share behind Olave and Shaheed with 16.9%. You still like that for a running back, but it's not as much as we expected his involvement to be in the passing game. Only 11 targets through 3 games is not what we are used to seeing from Kamara.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Ike, where are you going? Who are you out on in this matchup?
I get the Kamara one because he's also banged up, so I can agree on that. But if there's anyone to break through on a defense and score touchdowns, it's Alvin Kamara. He likes to find the end zone. So I wouldn't be benching him in any way, case.
No,
forward.
but don't expect an RB1 finish. Or
No. But
I think it'll be RB2.
An RB15 finish is fine. Whatever. Like, I wouldn't want anything really lower than that, but
that's what I'm expecting, and that's
expectations
why he's
on
my
him.
sour player.
Yeah, especially since
if
he's
going to be that
dealing
low
with
at.
some injuries too. The only thing going for him is if Olave is out, which, I mean, hamstrings this late into the week is not great holding. He will see more targets, more likely.
Yeah, a late week injury report adds definitely not good for Chris Olave. Like, are you guys firing him up no matter what still if he is active, or are you kind of, if you have a safer option on your bench, are you okay pivoting to someone else?
I would have to know the safer option.
Khalil Shakir. Let's go ahead and say that, because we got a good question
Olave?
here. Yeah, if we're worried about the hamstring or not.
Over Olave, no.
You can't do that.
Over Shaheed, I would.
You can't do over Olave, but don't be surprised if Shakir actually finishes with more points than Olave just because of the hamstring, and he will be limited.
How about Albert's question here? Would you go Shaheed or Shakir? I feel like these two guys are totally different fantasy players, and it's kind of based on how the rest of the lineup sits.
More targets.
Shakir has been so solid. He's been totally fine, but Shaheed can hit you with those 2 big plays.
Yep.
25-point week. I don't know if Shakir has that type of ceiling. Mike, what do you think?
Oh, I mean, I think Shakir does have that type of ceiling. I think this will be his coming out week. I have some notes on him, when we get to that matchup or whatnot. But this one is where I'll take Shakir over Shaheed. It's just a safety, security, with Shakir over Shaheed. But if it's Olave, no, I want Olave over Shakir, to answer your previous question.
Yeah, okay. That's totally fair. Next game we got here, the Cincinnati Bengals, the 0-3 Cincinnati Bengals, guys. Didn't see that one coming. Taking on the Carolina Panthers. Bengals, even though they're 0-3, Bengals are favored on the road by 4.5 points. Mike, we'll start with you here. Who is your sweet player this week for this Bengals-Panthers matchup?
It's Joe Burrow, and I know that's kind of a low-hanging fruit, but at the same time,
Yes.
Last week was his best game, but I think it'll be an even better game this week against the Panthers. They're the sixth best matchup for QBs. Last week, Joe Burrow and Andy Dalton became the first QBs this year to throw for 300 yards plus 3 touchdowns. Now, Burrow only finished his QB 7 last week. He gets another week at T. Higgins. We just saw the Bengals allow Jaden Daniels to finish his QB 3 last week against them. I mean, I know Jaden Daniels is not Andy Dalton, but if a rookie can do it, I think the Red Rocket can too as well. So this has, shootout potential written all over it. Just because the Bengals defense can't stop anybody and the Panthers defense can't stop anybody. So the thing I like here for Joe Burrow is Panthers allow the most points a game at 31.7. Bengals are at 26.7, per game. And this is probably going to be the first game that we see a QB throw 4 touchdowns, and it ain't going to be Patrick Mahomes.
Is your panic meter down to 0 with Joe Burrow and like the wrist thing that we were talking about too?
Yeah, he looked good last week.
When he couldn't grab a friggin' water bottle, stuff like that. Everyone was making a big deal out of that. You guys are all good with Burrow now?
Personally, I was never really, it was like a 4 or 5 on the panic meter at that point even. But yeah, it's just a matter of getting more reps with the guys who missed training camp.
Yeah, totally.
The turn of T. Higgins is just kind of insane. It just opens up more for Jamar Chase and everything.
Yeah, and you could tell that their Burrow and Higgins chemistry was a little off with his first game back too, which just led to Chase getting peppered with targets. Ike, who is your sweet play in this matchup, Panthers?
I was going to say Deontay. With Andy Dalton last week, granted.
Questionable. He's injury report with a groin.
That is also not great because groins are pretty brutal. But if it's just slight, he should be playing. And if so, he's going to be heavily targeted. With Dalton last week, he had 37% target share. I mean, granted, Thielen went out early, but still, he should be heavily involved.
No, yeah, I think Deontay Johnson is a set it and forget it type of guy. I'm curious to hear where everyone has him ranked.
He should be a top top 30,
and he'll be higher than that. Like in this matchup against against the Bengals, their defense is atrocious. Everyone is smashing on them right now. But someone who you don't see smashing in this matchup, who you got here, Ike, for this matchup?
Although he had a good week last week, I'm going Zach Moss. He was a top 12 running back, but I feel like Chase Brown.
I debated it.
Chase Brown's getting a little bit more work, and he kind of looks a little bit more explosive at some points.
Oh, he is.
So they should probably work him into the game plan a little bit more just to mix things up a little bit. You can keep Zach Moss on a goal line, so you kind of have to hope for a touchdown, but I'm sour on him this week.
Yeah, it's tough being sour on him in this matchup against the Panthers. I'm kind of in on him. Like you guys know my running back situation in the home league, and I think I'm leaning him over the Tony Pollards and J.K. Dobbins this week, but that's for a different conversation. Mike, let's say you, man, who are you out on in this Bengals-Panthers matchup?
I debated on Zach Moss just because I think Joe Burrow is going to have such an explosive week. Like the only way Moss could do it is if it's through the air, or if like you get a pass interference or tackle at the 1 yard line, he gets the cheapy freebie touchdown. But my sour player for this week is going to be Chuba Hubbard in this match.
I thought about him too.
Yeah. Last 2 weeks, Miles Sanders has eclipsed 40% of the snaps, and his snap percentage has increased all 3 games so far. That's a little disgusting, if you ask me. But, I think this has shootout potential, which just means I feel like both teams are abandoning the run in this game script. So I wanted to put Deontay Johnson as my love player, but I just think that Joe Burrow is going to be the explosive, go off for 30 plus points this week.
Yeah. All right. No, that's totally fair. I don't have any pushback a whole lot there. I get your thought process. Before we move on to the next game, we got a dynasty question here. His rosters, he's 1-2. His rosters: Mahomes, Tua, Carr, Gibbs, Pollard, Javonte, Roshan, Diggs, Evans, Ayuk, Pickens, Henry, Hawk, Gesicki. I'd stay pat, man. It's too early to be selling off It's too early to be selling off, in my opinion. I know, Mike, you hit me up in a couple dynasty leagues this week.
I definitely did.
I would sell
I'm
Henry,
struggling a little
probably.
bit, but I don't want to. Who'd you say, Ike?
Henry, if you can get anything for him.
I don't know if you're gonna get much for Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're gonna do anything, and I agree here with Dylan. Your team isn't like a terrible dynasty team to where you need to be just jumping ship right
Evans
now.
maybe would be your best.
And trading people. But if you really want to, here's a spicy take, and I'll talk about it more later. Trade Mahomes. He's got so much name value. So much. You can get so much.
Man, I can't
Mahomes
wait till you get to that game now.
As far as a haul,
I feel like you're
really
gonna talk shit about him.
But if you don't want to, I understand it. You don't want to be spicy. Then I agree with where you can trade Evans, maybe Diggs.
If he trades Mahomes there, though, Mike, he's kind of cooking his season because then his only quarterback
not necessarily
left is there. His only quarterback.
We'll get a quarterback.
You can get QB back in the. You can get a QB, dude. You got Mahomes. You're gonna get a haul for Mahomes in a dynasty league, especially if it's super flex like this is. I know he's underperforming, but it's still Mahomes. He still has the name value to where you can get a pretty, a king's ransom for him is kind of what I'm getting at. If you really want to start the rebuild here.
Yeah, I hear that. Next game here, we got the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Chicago Bears. Bears are favored by 3 points at home this week. No Cooper Kupp, obviously, for the Rams. No Puka Nacua. Keenan Allen might be back for the Bears this week. He's questionable. He's been limited in practice this week. Trending in the right direction, though. Ike, we're going to start with you, pal. Who are you in on in this matchup? Who are you sweet on, man?
I wanted to say Kyron because Bears are just kind of getting mollywopped by running backs a little bit. But I'm going Caleb because the Rams are also getting rocked by quarterbacks. They let Purdy score. They beat him, or the Rams beat the 49ers, but Purdy still scored 25 points. And the week before, Kyler was able to score around 20 to 25 points as well. Goff had a rough time, but still Caleb is more dynamic than Goff with his legs, I hope, that can maybe even put in a quarterback one performance again.
Well, for us Bears fans' sakes, I hope that's true. Mike, looking at you now, who do you got? Who are you sweet on in this Rams-Bears matchup?
I completely ignored him. Did he say Caleb Williams was this guy?
Yeah, he did.
You do know he threw for 360 yards last week, right?
I do know, yeah, and that's why he's my sweet player this week. The Rams are a great matchup. I like Caleb. Caleb's my number one. My 1B is Kyron Williams again, and it's the same thing I said last week. Even though he was he was inefficient last week. He's all they got when they're getting into the red zone. It's Kyron Williams. So I do think he's a 1B in this situation, but give me Caleb Williams all day in this matchup. Third best for QBs. One of 6 teams allowing 20-plus fantasy points, 2 QBs. Kyler Murray had a QB1 finish week 2, and like you said, Brock Purdy last week was good. He was so good he had QB5 finish. Caleb Williams has increased his completion rating each week, which is impressive for a QB, even though when you start off at 48.3%, all you can do is go up unless your name's Anthony Richardson. But yeah, so his completion rating's gone up every single week. His passing yard total has gone up through 3 games every single week in a juicy matchup where I think the Rams can at least keep this competitive with the Bears. Give me Caleb Williams.
I am.
On a side note, by the way, Tutu Atwell is kind of intriguing too if you're in like 12-team leagues or something like that. He was the guy last week, so I don't know. I'm intrigued by him. He always seems to turn up when injuries happen.
Also, we're fired up DJ Moore this week with this matchup as well.
Yes.
If he's going to see a lot of Tre'Davious White is not the guy
he's getting cooked.
Yeah, he is. He might be the definition of cooked right now. But just playing on top of that, we got a question. Start 2 for this week. Non-PPR, we got DJ Moore, Zay Flowers, Jamison Williams, and JSN. I think you give me DJ Moore and you give me Zay Flowers. I know Mike's not going to like hearing that I got.
I was going to say Flowers or JSN.
That's where I got JMO. I got JMO and JSN sit.
It's for sure start DJ Moore. I would not be starting Zay Flowers.
He's just been so good, Mike. He's been so solid.
No, he hasn't. He's had one good week this year so far. Zay Flowers. I'll look it up. His finishes up for you here.
JSN.
But it's JSN or JMO. I don't think you can go wrong with either. JSN, I think he has a good week this week. He's, preview. He's my sweet player in that matchup. So I do like JSN this week, but I think JMO also. I love JMO. So it's between JMO or JSN. I'd go JMO, but if you want to go JSN, there's no problem against that George play.
The only thing about Jamison, which we'll get into later, is Goff is not having the season we would want right now. I mean,
it's gonna come around at some point.
They can manufacture touches for JMO though.
Seahawks are a tough defense, man. Led by
their numbers are a little skewed.
Coordinator.
Their numbers are a little skewed. Do you know who they've played their first 3 games? They played the Patriots. I'm blanking on the other.
The Seahawks.
Hey,
yeah, they have not played.
Patriots
very good.
Beat the Bengals. Okay, put some respect on their name. Come on.
So they played Bo Nix. They played Bo Nix in his rookie appearance. They played the Patriots with Jacoby Brissett, and then they played Skylar Thompson last week with Miami.
That's
they have not played a good matchup against a solid QB like Jared Goff. So their numbers are a little bit skewed.
And just to push back on the Zay Flowers thing, he saw 10 and 11 targets in weeks 1 and 2, had 11 fantasy points in week 1, had 22 fantasy points in week 2, and then struggled last week because the Ravens jumped on the freaking Cowboys right away, right on their throats.
I think the Ravens is going to run the shit out of the ball. They found their recipe to win.
Yeah.
So you drafted
Zay Flowers is the 1A in the offense, man.
You drafted Zay Flowers as a wide receiver 2, most likely.
And you're going to get screwed by it probably.
He's had one wide receiver 2 finish through 3 games so far.
Was it a wide receiver 1 finish too?
Yes. Barely. Wide receiver 12. Wide receiver 12.
With 22 fantasy points. I'll take that. But
he's not going to get into the end zone that much.
That's my point. He's inconsistent. It's like playing Christian Watson for the Packers. Yeah, he might score a touchdown, but he might also get you, 10 points.
But you're putting Jamison Williams on this pedestal like he's not inconsistent, man. What did he do last week, Mike?
Agreed.
That's one
Why
game.
Do you have so much? It's the same thing for Zay Flowers. He struggled 1 game.
I would put Zay over JMO.
He's had 25 targets in 3 games. How many does Jamison Williams have? It's probably similar, but you're acting like Zay's non-existent. 10 and 11 targets in 2 games is good stuff.
The matchup, I think, is better for JMO this week than Zay Flowers also.
Totally fair. But we still haven't even gotten our sour plays in this matchup.
I don't know who we're on right now.
Rams Bears, who's your sour play? Who don't you like in this matchup here?
Oh, that's easy. Stafford. Please don't play him. Bears quarterbacks have yet to allow QB1. And they've played Stroud. Granted, Will Levis. And Anthony Richardson. I don't like him, but people think he's a top 12 quarterback, and he's not, and Bears proved it. So, yeah, I think Stafford might struggle against the Bears this week. So, for sure, I would sit him if you have better options. I would play Derek Carr over him in super flex leagues and stuff like that.
It kind of just depends on if the Bears can get pressure on Stafford too, because the Bears corners are going to be able to stick on those wide receivers.
Yeah, they're going to bring it
No
because they
Cooper
can
Kupp
just
and no
play man
Puka.
coverage on those guys.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. So you might be onto something, man. It could be a long day for Stafford from a passing perspective. Mike, looking at you now, do you have somebody different, or was Stafford on your mind here for a sour play as well? Are you going to go low hanging fruit maybe here, DeAndre Swift? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it was low hanging fruit. It's the whole Bears running back. I know Roshan Johnson. There's Jamie's gonna hate me for this, but he's getting more involved, which is cool. But it just muddies the backfield. Because it goes hand in hand with the same Burrow, and why I thought Zach Moss. I think Caleb Williams just has a really good day, which limits the ceiling for the running backs. And I mean, you guys seen the meme, that speed option with DeAndre Swift, like that whole 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen were on their asses. Like you can't.
That wasn't even the worst one.
That's not their.
No,
I'm sorry, Shane Waldron.
I mean, I'm just saying the O-line is
Shane Waldron. Hire me for $10 a week. I'll do it.
Answer this question: which O-line's worse, the Jacksonville Jaguars or your guys' O-line?
It's the Bears. It's not my O-line, man. It's the Bears O-line.
I don't have an O-line.
They're terrible.
I know line. They'd be playing better.
It's the whole reason I'm down on ETN too.
The worst play for Swift's week last week, and it was on tape too. You guys might have saw the video. It was an outside zone run, and DJ Moore's locked in on a block here. There's a linebacker in this hole, and Swift has all the room to run outside over here. Guess where he picks? Right in the back of DJ Moore.
His vision is like fucking Harry Potter without glasses. Can't see shit.
Yeah, unfortunately, man, it's game over for DeAndre Swift this year for fantasy football, I think. Unfortunately.
He ain't getting any of the targets out of the backfield, that's for sure.
Yeah, not ideal. We got another question here. I may be able to trade Hockenson plus a pick for T. Higgins and Zay Flowers. Would y'all make that move to add depth to my roster?
Yeah. Depends on pick.
Yeah,
this is a dynasty question. You're getting too young. I mean, T is the questionable one, but you get a young wide receiver. Even if it's a first-round pick, I still think it's worth it.
Man, T. Higgins can leave Cincy and be a number 1 somewhere else, so I like it.
Especially if you're not pivoting away, because I'm assuming it's the same league that you showed us earlier. If you're planning on staying in it and you can make a move like that to better your roster this year and for the future, yeah, I'm all in on that trade too. Like Mike said, I love it. So,
it's not like Hawk's doing much for you right now.
Yeah, exactly. Next game on the docket, we're going to talk about Mr. Hawkinson's team. Actually, the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Green Bay Packers. Vikings favored by 2.5 on the road this week. I don't know if it doesn't seem like Vegas has Jordan Love in their thoughts here with that line. He is questionable. He's been a limited participant. Jair Alexander questionable as well with a quad and groin injury. Jordan Addison going to play for the Vikings this week. Good to have him back. Mike, we'll start with you here. Who's your sweet player? Who are you all in this Vikings Packers divisional matchup?
Aaron Jones, revenge.
Yes.
11th best matchup for running backs. I mean, they haven't been as much of a run funnel as past, but they are still a solid matchup for running backs. Jones has 60% of the snaps compared to 35% for Ty Chandler. Jones is currently RB9, very quietly on the year. He's tied for second in the league in targets for RBs with Tony Pollard at 14. So I just think this is a really good matchup for Aaron Jones. And Packers have been really good against the pass. I believe they have 7 interceptions on the year through 3 games. So I just feel like it's a game where Sam Darnold might struggle, and they're going to lean on Aaron Jones here.
Ike, it sounds like you're all in on Aaron Jones as well.
Yep, he's also been RB1 in 2 of the 3 games. So he's being used in the pass game and the run game. He is the end zone threat, or red zone threat for the touchdown in the running game. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of pushback for you guys there. But I will quickly go right into your sour play from this Vikings-Packers matchup.
Depends on if they play him. And if they do, it's Jordan Love. I do not think they should play him against this defense right now. They're
talking about low-hanging fruit.
Oh, yeah. They're kind of playing a little bit bonkers. Brian Flores is bringing the blitz at every possible chance he can get. And if Jordan Love is playing on a very iffy knee, they're going to be bringing it even more. So I would avoid most Packer players, to be honest. Wide receivers, I'm completely out on. Josh Jacobs might find the end zone, so you got to start him. But, yeah, avoid them.
Yeah, if Love's not moving around well, it's definitely a scary matchup. Mike, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's funny you say that because my sour player is Josh Jacobs. I know you're starting him at the what we have here going on at the the depth of wide running backs. Sorry, my screen just went blank on me. But it's tempering expectation for Josh Jacobs. 6th toughest matchup for running backs. I mean, Jacobs only had 52% of the snaps last week to Emmanuel Wilson's 41% of the snaps. That was the most alarming. I know that, this is supposed to be, kind of like a split backfield, but that was way more split than I expected. Week 2, it was 67% to 19%. So that's a drastic change. And that was still a week they had Malik Willis. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm just a little concerned with his usage because, if Jacobs only has 15 touches again, then Wilson's 14. And if it is Jordan Love, I'm still not even that, hyped about it. So, you're starting Josh Jacobs, but tempering expectations, like probably around, RB 15 to 18 this week.
All right. I can see that. Ike, you're talking. You're muted, man. You're still muted.
You're muted, but you may not be talking.
I was not talking.
That is such a wild stat, man, from Albert there. 3 more receptions. Josh Jacobs would have the most receptions without a receiving touchdown in his career.
Wouldn't that pass Jacoby Myers for that record? I believe.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure who's the all-time leader, but yeah, that sure is something. Next game we got here on the schedule, an AFC South matchup: the Jacksonville Jaguars, the bad Jacksonville Jaguars right now, guys, taking on the Houston Texans. Jaguars getting 6.5 points on the road. No Evan Ingram once again. Gabe Davis also on the injury report, who is questionable. No Tank Dell, no Damian Pierce for the Texans either. Joe Mixon also questionable in this one. He was practicing today, which was nice. Yeah, this is the Tank Dell stuff definitely sucks. He's been someone who's struggled to start the season, and now with him being banged up, it's definitely a bummer with the chest injury. But Ike, we'll start with you here. Who are you sweet on? Who are you all in on in this Jaguars-Texans matchup?
With all the injuries, I kind of like.
Can I interrupt for a second? Totally unrelated. Minnesota Timberwolves are nearing a trade to send Karl Anthony Towns to the New York Knicks.
And just saw that too.
I mean, it's not football related, but I feel like,
probably Julius Randle is probably part of it, I'd assume, to match salaries.
Interesting.
But that's
talk about a trade. But yeah, go ahead, Ike. My apologies for interrupting on that one.
I'm gonna go CJ Stroud. Jaguars defense completely sucks.
I like it.
CJ Stroud needs to get back into a rhythm. Unfortunately, with Diggs there, I kind of feel like he is struggling more than he should be.
Don't do it.
Dude, he's a cancer in the locker room. And he wants the ball. So CJ Stroud knows he wants the ball, and he's forcing the ball to someone he usually never does. That's why.
Can I do it, Michael Plant? Can I hit the mute button?
I don't think it's warranted, but you're the host.
I don't think it's warranted either. I don't like that you're doing that in week 4, man. I really don't appreciate that.
I just think he's gotten worse with Stephon Diggs coming in town, to be honest.
Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo.
All right. Well,
what?
They break up the Villanova connection just a little bit because it was Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Dante there. But wow. Interesting. I'm kind of curious why Minnesota wanted to do that deal and get Julius Randle as part of it. That's a weird one. But Mike, we'll go ahead and we'll kick it to you, man. Who's your sweet play in this Texans Jaguars matchup?
Ike's not gonna like it, but it's Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. It's both of them. I like both of them. Eighth best matchup for wide receivers. Tank Dell's ruled out. Mixon's questionable again. You're going to hear me say this a lot, but, Jacksonville is one of 8 teams allowing 40-plus fantasy points a game to wide receivers. Week 1, Tyreek Hill was wide receiver 4. Week 2 was a little bit of an anomaly. Amari Cooper sucked, but Jerry Jeudy was wide receiver 27. Elijah Moore was wide receiver 32. Both playable wide receivers, which nobody would have ever expected because they played the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then last week, Khalil Shakir was wide receiver 18. So give me all the Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs this week that I can get.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. I'm all over the Texans offense myself here this week. We'll stay with you, Mike. Who aren't you in on in this week, and why is it Trevor Lawrence?
Because that's the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to go a little less low and go Travis Etienne. I mean, if you got it, it's hard. It's rough out there with the injuries. But, man, I'm serious. If you got another option, bench Etienne. He's the clear lead running back, which is why he's, still startable, especially with the injuries. So it's not a running back by committee. He, dominating the snap, 69% to Bigsby 17, which was, one of our concerns. But his best finish through 3 games is RB20. RB20. Texans are the 8th toughest matchup for running backs, and I don't see this team turning around anytime soon. So I'm out on Etienne this week, and I'm probably rest of the season if they can't turn this around.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, man. You're really banking on Etienne getting some work in the passing game just because how awful their offensive line is, too. They don't block well in the passing game. They don't block well in the run game. So less than ideal there. You're not super comfortable with Etienne rest of the season. I think he should be solid, float around the 10 to 14.
I mean, even so, he's got 14 targets. He's got 9 receptions for only 38 yards.
Yeah.
It's just terrible all around. Like, you want to talk about a cancer? This offense is a cancer. I want nothing of it.
Yeah, it's gross right now. That's for sure. I kicking it to you, man. Who are you out on this matchup?
I'll have to go with Etienne too as well. Like you said before, it's not looking good for him. Offensive line is bad. Plus, he's going against Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, so that's always not great.
If you had to start one player on the Jaguars this week, who would it be? Brian
Christian
Thomas,
Kirk.
right?
No, it's Christian Kirk, because if it turns into a blowout like it did last week, Christian Kirk saw 10 targets and he still finishes, wide receiver 23, I think it was, or 28. So, that's if there's garbage time, Christian Kirk's the guy that's going to get it, especially with Evan Ingram ruled out.
Okay.
Brian Thomas seems like the red zone guy, so
he's boomer bust.
It wouldn't be wrong for him either. So
you want to talk about he's Rashid Shaheed for that offense. It's just a worse offense.
Yeah. No, I can see that comparison for sure. Next game we got here, the Pittsburgh Steelers taking out the Indianapolis Colts. Steelers are favored by 2 points on the road against the struggling Anthony Richardson, who's just been a fantasy disappointment, guys. Not ideal. No Jalen Warren this week for the Steelers. He's out with a knee injury. Not ideal. Mike, we'll go ahead and start with you. Who are you in on in the Steelers-Colts matchup?
I mean, can I just say this right now? A little sidebar. You want to talk about how bad Anthony Richardson's been? All right. And then Ike wants to give me crap for Patrick Mahomes.
We're not talking Patrick Mahomes, man.
I'm just saying, you want to say how bad Anthony Richardson has been. He's got 41 total points on the year. Mahomes has 44.5. Only 3.5 more points than Anthony Richardson. And we're talking about how bad Richardson's having, of a year. But not a single soul is talking about Mahomes. It's just
'Cause
got to
we're
be
watching
more
it
aware.
with our eyes. We're
It's
watching
just-
with our eyes too.
I'm
is the
not
problem.
downing him. He's the best NFL quarterback out there, but we're not playing NFL football.
No,
We're
I
playing
hear you.
fantasy football.
The eyes thing was more talking about how bad Anthony Richardson has looked throwing the football outside of the bomb he hit Alec Pierce on the first week.
I get it, but I mean that's still a week where more points were scored than Patrick Mahomes has scored all year. So that's my point here. Is just like put some more eyes on Mahomes here. But my sweet player in this matchup is Najee Harris. Jalen Warren ruled out. All right, so just more volume to Najee Harris. Mixon was RB2.
Is that because you have to play him?
No, I got things. You calm the hell down. Mixon week 1 was RB2 against the Colts. Josh Jacobs had 151 rushing yards in week 2, and as Uncle Ted pointed out in the comments, he was a touchdown away from having a RB1 finish, but he finished his RB23 instead. Colts have allowed the second most rushing yards in the NFL, averaging 179
How did DeAndre
yards.
Swift do?
I was waiting for it. Yeah.
How bad is that O-line compared to the Steelers? Like I said, I can't.
I mean, I'm
emphasize enough
assuming
how bad
Steelers
that
not much
O-line is.
better, but I think if there's anybody
they're
that's
all
going to
right.
be rushing, it's Justin Fields.
And you
Because
want to talk
Najee is
about
a plotter.
and you want to talk about offensive scheme? How Shane Waldron can't do a thing. Arthur Smith can at least scheme up a running game.
Hey,
for the Steelers.
I totally agree. Shane Waldron can lick piss.
I believe you drink it. You know, but that's besides the point. And then I tweeted this out. I tweeted this out a couple days ago. There's 21 running backs that have 40 plus rushing attempts on the season. Najee Harris is the only one who hasn't scored a touchdown. There's 11
That's because
running
he's
backs.
bad.
Shut up and let me talk.
And they don't score.
There's 11 running backs who average 20 plus touches a game, and Najee Harris is the only one who hasn't scored a touchdown.
Albert
The volume
Because
is there.
Albert's
and
right.
The regression will come here. I think there'd be multiple rushing touchdowns. Like, I don't think there'll be a single passing touchdown in this game. I think it'll all be rushing touchdowns for the Steelers.
Yeah.
I really do. It could be Patterson. It could be a Pickens end around. They allow the second most rushing yards in the league. They can't stop the run. Not Dexter. Man, what's his face? I can't think of his name, but the D tackles on IR for the Colts. Man, Buckner. Thank you. DeForest Buckner. It's a big anchor in their D line. You can just run all over the Colts.
Yeah.
Oh,
You could
yeah.
also you could throw all over him too. No, Kenny Moore has been ruled out. Chris Lammons, their other outside corner.
So Justin
he's
Fields is going to throw
too.
all over him, huh?
No,
He's going to
they're
throw for
all-
like 150.
He did throw for 250 last week. We'll see. Who you at in this matchup?
I was just talking shit about him, but I'm going Justin Fields. I think he's going to be the one that runs all over. I think Najee could get in the end zone. I was just talking shit about him, so he was not a bad pick either.
No, he's not.
He should have a touchdown on the year with
Yeah.
how many times he's
But I
been
think
used.
Justin Fields is going to be also very well top 10 QB. Like if you're in 10-man leagues, that's iffy. But in
Patrick
12-man
Mahomes
leagues,
or
go
Justin
for it.
Fields.
Mahomes this week for sure. I'll get into
I
it
hate
later.
you guys. I hate you guys. Go ahead.
Just wait till we get to that game.
No, you're
I'm
right.
gonna
You're right.
School
I-
you so hard.
Man,
so fucking hard.
all right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Who you out of?
Hold on. Oh, come on. We know this. Anthony Richardson.
why?
QB 21 or worse in the past 2 games. He's thrown 6 interceptions on the year, and he just looks like the worst quarterback in the league. And I'm not even kidding. Will
I
Levis.
wouldn't say the worst.
Will Levis is pretty bad too. So him and Anthony Richardson minus a deep ball, which
You're telling me
if you have
Bo
a
Nix
good
is-
arm, anybody can just huck it up there for somebody.
Bo Nix has looked better than Anthony Richardson the last.
Yeah. At least he's running the ball. What is Anthony Richardson doing?
He's ran the ball.
There was
At least-
a game 2 weeks ago. He ran the ball 2 times. Last week he ran it maybe.
No. This is just a matter of we have really, really high expectations for Anthony Richardson.
I didn't,
And
and he's
and
still in my expectations. Goes to show what you guys were thinking. I don't know what people were thinking of him as top 12 quarterback.
I mean, it's like the same thing thinking that, you're drafting Patrick Mahomes as a top 5 QB, but he's, QB 15 on the year.
I mean, it's still better than Anthony Richardson.
Not much. By 3.5 points. Congratulations.
You know how much that's going to change this week when the Chiefs play the Chargers?
All right. Even though the Chargers are the third toughest matchup for QBs.
Do you know what he does against the Chargers?
It's a slog of a game. I don't know if I really like it either, if I'm being honest with you.
Do you know what he does against the Chargers, though?
6th toughest matchup for QBs.
This rendition of the Chargers?
Nobody knows what he does against the Chargers, though.
He has killed the previous regimes of the Chargers.
You're going to tell us what he does against the Chargers when we
get
to the game. Like, I like it. That's called I don't know what it's called. Mike will
regime. Foreshadow.
Mike, we'll kick it to
Michael
you,
Plant, they just got railroaded by who the fuck just beat them? The Raiders or some shit?
It was the Steelers.
Chargers?
And It
Steelers.
was the Steelers,
sure.
And they didn't railroad them. They scored 20 points. How was that a railroad?
Okay, so Mahomes should score more.
All right. Whatever you say.
Who's your sour play, Mike?
Oh, my bad. Sour play is I lost it. It's Anthony Richardson and it's Jonathan Taylor. That's a combo here. Second toughest matchup for running backs and the toughest for QBs. I'm sitting, the whole Colts offense in this matchup. Did you know the Steelers have allowed the lowest amount of fantasy points to all positions, QBs, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends? And the next closest is 9-point difference. That is a dramatic difference. So, like, the Steelers are on another level right now. I'd just be sitting everybody from the Colts offense.
Yeah. They've
I mean, you got to start Taylor, but, man, you're not happy about it. Yeah. But, yeah, sit Pittman if you got the opportunity.
Yeah, agreed there. Next game we got here, actually, we got a question here. Let's answer real quick for Jason. Have to start to London, Garrett, Deontay. Any help here?
I'm sitting Wilson. I'm sitting Garrett Wilson.
I'm also saying Garrett Wilson.
All right. I don't have to answer.
We'll talk about it in the next matchup that you should just transition to.
Next matchup, we got the Denver Broncos taking on the New York Jets. Broncos getting 8 points on the road. Kind of seems like a big number, if I'm being honest with you, for the Jets to cover here. But, hey, what the hell do I know? Ike, we'll start with you, my friend. Who are you in on in this Broncos-Jets matchup?
Go on, Breece Hall. I would like to. This one's weird. I would also wouldn't mind Alan Lazard because he scored in two of the 3 games, I'm pretty sure. So if you're in deep leagues, don't be scared to play him as like a flex option over like a Quentin Johnston if you have him or something like that. But I'm still obviously going Breece Hall. He gets the volume. Aaron Rodgers just dumps it off to running backs, whether it's Braylon Allen or him, like it's his job. That's why I'm out on Garrett Wilson as well. So, yeah, Breece Hall is the easy one. So,
yeah, no, that's fair. Mike, kick to you. Who's your top play in this Broncos-Jets matchup?
It's ugly. But yeah, it's Breece Hall. And I can even, if you guys want to start Braylon Allen with the landscape of the running backs, I think it's warranted. He's a flex play this week.
Not in 10, man, but deeper.
I think with the matchup he is. He's eclipsed 30+% of the snaps the past 2 weeks. He's seen an increase in touches every game so far. 2 the first game, 9 the second game, 14 this past game. If he can get 15 touches a game, he's a flex play in a matchup against the 15th best, matchup for running backs. So, like, you can't throw against the Broncos, but you can run against them.
Mike, how about you tell everybody why Garrett Wilson's the sour play this week and why you don't really want to play him?
It's the same reason I told people to set Mike Evans last week. It's called Surtain Island. And it's a tough matchup. All right, Broncos are literally number 1 against wide receivers, only allowing 19 fantasy points a game, and it's mainly on the back of Patrick Surtain. Week 1, DK Metcalf, 63 wide receiver finish. Week 2, Pickens, wide receiver 64. And last week, Mike Evans fell victim to it at a worse degree, becoming wide receiver 85. All 3 of these wide receivers have totaled a number of 75 yards in 3 games against Surtain. Sit Garrett Wilson if you can this week, guys. It is very tough in the land of Surtain Island.
Ike, I'm assuming that was yours as well. All right. Any interest in the Broncos running backs here in this matchup at all? The Jets kind of get mollywopped on the ground a bit.
They kind of look really bad, so no.
Yeah. Right.
Jaleel McLaughlin made one cool play on that touchdown, but other than that,
yeah, not sure how he got in the end zone, but he did. But yeah, that was definitely an interesting one. Checking the next game here, we got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a rematch of the wild card matchup. I think it was last year where the Eagles just got bombarded by the Bucs. Eagles are favored by 1.5 in this one on the road. Well, Mike, we'll start with you here. Who are you in on with no Devonta Smith for the Eagles? AJ Brown is questionable. Lane Johnson's questionable. Who are you in on this Eagles Bucks matchup?
Who am I out or in on? Or which one was
Whatever
it?
you want, man. Whatever.
I mean, I'll start it off with someone I'm benching this week for Jaden Daniels. My sour plays Jalen Hurts. In 2 regular season games, Hurts has finished as QB9 and QB5 against the Buccaneers, all off of rushing, literally all off of rushing, because he averages 196 passing yards and only he has a total of 2 passing touchdowns and 3 interceptions in 2 games against them. With Devontae Smith ruled out, AJ Brown questionable. Hurts only has 1 rushing touchdown on the year, compared to Barkley's 4. So it seems like when they get into the red zone, it is no more tush push time. It is Saquon Barkley time. So, I mean, yeah. I'm sitting Jalen Hurts. In the league we have, guys, for Jane Daniels.
Yeah, I get why they want to use Saquon at the goal line. Why risk your quarterback getting injured when you have someone like on Saquon's level who can get in the end zone like he does? The guy looks absolutely fantastic, and I'm glad to see him doing what he's doing after dealing with a bunch of injuries throughout his career. Ike, looking at you, man. Who are you out on this week since Mike took us that direction?
I'm going to go the other quarterback and go Baker. He did do good against them in the playoffs, but when they play in the regular season, he struggled mightily. Eagles defense kind of had some pass rush and some disruption with Jalen Carter last week, so I think they can do that again against the Buccaneers, so I'm out on him. I'm surprised that LaPlante picked Hurts for his sour pick because Bo Nix last week was able to rush for a touchdown and for just under 50 yards, so I don't see why Jalen Hurts can't do that, so he could
Vita
find
Vea
the
was
end
out
zone.
last week. Vita Vea was out last week. There's a chance he plays this week, so I mean, I think
either way, I
it's a
still
big-
think
big
Jalen
game.
Hurts running the ball is going to be heavily involved in the game plan with so many people out. I mean, plus Barkley is going to be involved too. So depending on, I think both can get in the end zone. I think both could be fine, but like LaPlante said, Hurts could hurt your week if he doesn't rush like we think he will.
If he doesn't have Devonta Smith or AJ Brown, I don't want any part of him. Like that's.
I just think he's going to run a lot then.
scary zone.
Or Dallas Goedert's going to get peppered with targets, which even then it's like, ugh.
the ceiling's limited.
Or is Jahan Dotson the play of the week? Maybe. Who knows?
Like I don't like Jalen Hurts is not a top 8 quarterback. I think. This
Oh
week.
no, definitely not.
With like his ceiling is so limited. Like if he does become a 8 to 12 QB finish, it's going to be because he rushed for 80 yards and got a touchdown.
Yeah, no.
I'd play him over quite a few players. Like I'd play him over Jordan Love, Anthony Richardson, probably Jared Goff too as well.
Stop saying Jordan Love. I don't think Jordan Love's playing this week. I think it's a joke that people think he's playing. I don't think he is.
Like, who are you in?
The
on
game,
this
man.
matchup?
If they lose, they go down 3 games to Minnesota, technically with the division game too as well.
Who are you in on?
Who am I in on? I mean, I hate you. But I love Mike Evans and Chris Godwin this week. I think they're just going to eat. 7th best matchup for wide receivers. One of 8 teams allowing 40 plus fantasy points a game to wide receivers. Week 1, Jaden Reed, wide receiver 1 finish. Drake London, week 2, wide receiver 19 finish. And they allowed Darnell Mooney a wide receiver 18 finish. And then last week, like I said, he would do. Chris Olave scored a touchdown and had his best week of the year at wide receiver 10. Eagles have allowed 5 receiving touchdowns through 3 games, and there's probably going to be another 2 added in there, both for Mike Evans and Godwin.
All right. I like it. Ike, where are you going here?
He said it, man. I already said Jalen Hurts.
You're in it? Oh, he's...
Yeah, because his rushing. Bo Nix was able to rush.
Who did you say you were out on?
Out Baker.
Oh, you're out on
I already
Baker.
said that too.
Okay. I didn't hear the Baker part.
Gotta listen, man.
I don't like
surprised.
to listen to
Surprised nobody was sour on Rashad White here. If I'm being honest,
you want to talk about low hanging fruit?
Bucky Irving kind of taking over, but we should have touched on Bucky Irving seeing a little bit more work too. He looks like the better running back. He's more efficient with his touches. The Rashad White show might be coming to an end here pretty quick.
Unfortunately, the coach said that. Coach already said that Rashad White's going to be involved no matter what. So,
yeah, but it's not.
That's coach speak. So who knows?
It's not where you were drafted him in the 3rd or 4th round. You're not loving that right now. That's for sure.
Yeah,
heading over to
Eagles.
Go ahead, Mike.
Eagles are the 9th toughest matchup for running backs too, and Rashad White we already know is inefficient. So, yeah. So
I hear you.
Go ahead.
Looking at the afternoon games, we got the Washington Commanders taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Excited for this one, guys. Should be a lot of points scored in this one. The Commanders are getting 3.5 points on the road. I kick it to you. We'll let you go whatever direction that you want, positive or negative. Who are you in or out on in this Commanders-Cardinals matchup?
I'll do who I'm in on. I'll kick it to LaPlante because I'm sure he's got a lot on this. But I'm in on the quarterbacks. I think Jane Daniels and Kyler will both be good. I think both should be started. But I know LaPlante's super in on Jane Daniels, so I'll let him do his thing.
It's not Jane Daniels, though, as far as my sweet player in this matchup. I do like Jane Daniels because, like Dylan said, this is another shootout game here, potentially. Cardinals, they've had, like, their defensive stats are skewed as well because they haven't exactly played, the greatest offenses. Like, when they played the Bills, just ran down their throats. So they didn't really – it really wasn't much of an actual neutral game script. So their stats are skewed, so – I actually love Marvin Harrison and Greg Dortch this week. And, news that Trey McBride has been ruled out. Give me more Greg Dortch. Commanders are literally the best matchup for wide receivers. The only team allowing 50-plus fantasy points to wide receivers. They have played 3 games this year, but have allowed 4 different wide receiver 1 performances. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin finishes wide receiver 6 and wide receiver 8 week 1. Malik Neighbors wide receiver 3 last week 2, and then Jamar Chase wide receiver 2. The worst finish for a wide receiver they've allowed, a starting wide receiver has been wide receiver 8. So, give me Marvin Harrison. I think Greg Dortch is startable in this matchup. They have allowed the most receiving touchdowns in the NFL at 9. The 5th highest yards per completion at 11.1. So, this is just an offense you start all your wide receivers against the Commanders.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. No real pushback. But in a high-scoring game, though, man, who are you out on? Like, who...
Ike's gonna hate me, and this is all off vibes, and it's the vibes we got last week. It's James Conner. I do think that with this being a potential shootout game, teams will just abandon the run. I just don't see that James Conner gets involved, and if he does, it'll get involved in the passing game. But at the same time, the Commanders are allowing so many points to wide receivers. Maybe they just don't involve James Conner in the passing game. So I'm just out on James Conner, especially after last week playing the Lions. Bad vibes.
I hear that. I should have mentioned too at the top. No trade McBride. No trade Trey McBride for the Cardinals in this one. So the tight end position gets a little thinner. Ike, who are you out on in this matchup?
I thought about James Conner, but I think Brian Robinson should also be mentioned. Rough game last week. I think it's
sort of tutty.
Yeah, that saved him to 8 points or whatever it was. I think he's just having a rough year right now, but he should figure it out. I don't think this is the week because, like we said, should be an airing attack between both of these guys. So I like both quarterbacks, both all the wide receivers. The running backs I'm kind of out on.
I don't like that you said Brian Robinson here. No Austin Eckler either, man. I just see him getting everything in that backfield this week. I kind of
Everything, yeah,
total opposite.
12 carries for 15 yards because he's so inefficient right now.
We'll
yeah,
see.
2.1 yards a carry last week, but that was a tougher matchup. That's the reason why, as far as the Bengals matchup, why I'm low on Chuba Hubbard and why he's a sour play for me this week is because the Bengals' run defense is better than their pass defense.
Yeah. All right. I don't see you guys, but all right. Next game here, we got the New England Patriots taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Patriots getting 10.5 points on the road. 49ers still a little bit banged up. Probably no Deebo Samuel, obviously no Christian McCaffrey. They are getting George Kittle back, who is not listed on the injury report any longer. Mike, we'll start with you here. Who are you in on in this Niners-Patriots matchup?
Man, it's Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk. But, man, I don't even want to really say Brandon Ayuk. Did you guys see the video of him arguing with Kyle Shanahan? It literally just came out a couple hours ago, but apparently, it was some argument over, the dress code Ayuk had to wear for practice.
Mm-hmm.
And Ayuk just threw a tantrum like a little child. So, I kind of want to erase Ayuk from this answer, but at the same time, he saw 10 targets last week. I know Kittle will be back, but they're still trying to get, their $25 million man involved in this offense. So I think both of them are playable. I think they rest Deebo Samuel another week. Like I said, you'll hear it a lot. One of 8 teams allowing 40 fantasy points a game to wide receivers is the New England Patriots. I know, Jamie, you're watching here. Christian Gonzalez has been good, but they're still targeting him. He hasn't been no Patrick Surtain.
With George Kittle coming back to the lineup, is third and Juwan kind of dead now for fantasy purposes, or could you still see him making an impact here?
It looked like Brock Purdy trusted him in a game that the Niners were, needing to, when they were in the game, they needed to, score. He was targeting Juwan Jennings. He had more targets than Brandon Ayuk. So, I think the trust factor is there with Brock Purdy, but as soon as Deebo Samuel's back in the lineup, then I think Juwan's out.
Yeah, no, for sure. Ike, who are you in on here?
Jordan Mason. Rough game last week. I think he gets a bounce back. Patriots gave Joe Burrow a hell of a time. Will they do it to Brock Purdy? That remains to be seen, but I think he might struggle a little bit more than everybody thinks. So I would go Jordan Mason over everybody else in that 49er offense.
And I completely disagree with you because he's my sour player. It was his first game under 100 yards last week rushing. Finishes the RB 24. Patriots have allowed the 5th fewest rushing yards this year, only 3.7 yards a carry. That's 5th best. So, if there's one thing the Patriots can do, they can stop your run game. So
they can also stop your best player, which is not Jordan Mason.
I mean, you could make an argument that Jordan Mason has been their best player through 2 games. I mean,
it's Brock
he's
Purdy.
Had 100 plus. He's had 100 plus rushing yards.
Let's not forget Trent Williams also got hurt.
I'm just saying you can make an argument for Jordan Mason.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Who are you
at? Yeah, he's my sour player.
Me, Stevenson. He did hurt his finger last week, but he seems to be fine. He should be playing this week, but he has some fumbling issues. And if you have a broken finger, whatever it is, sprained finger, that's not going to help with your handling issues. Plus, Antonio Gibson is starting to see more work, and the coach even alluded to Stevenson needing to figure out to hold on to the ball. So it's a little worrisome, but he should still be a borderline RB2. with his volume, he could get higher, but still temper expectations.
Yeah, I don't love him here in this matchup. That's for sure. Next game we got on the docket. We're finally here. Now you guys can duke it out about Patrick Mahomes if you still have the energy to do so at an hour and 4 minutes into the show. We got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Chiefs favored by 7 points on the road. Doesn't look like Justin Herbert. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Actually, he might play.
It's probably 50-50 if Justin Herbert plays with the high ankle sprain. Ike, we'll just go ahead and start with you. Who is your sweet play in this matchup, and why is it Patrick Mahomes?
It is Mahomes because he should be starting in every single quarterback slot you have. Against the Chargers, last 5 games, he is averaging 26.4 points per game. The last 2 games, when the offense has been struggling, 25-plus points per game. His only quarterback 1 finish last year was against the Chargers. So, for some reason, whatever it is, yes, I get it. It's a previous regime. Cool. John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh, whatever the fuck you want to call him. Cool. Great defense, whatever. Mahomes is going to want to destroy him like he always does to the Chargers. We've seen it in the past 5 games, the past whatever main game. So, yeah, it's Mahomes. Don't even think about it.
Gold jacket, green jacket. Who gives a
Who
shit?
gives a shit?
Mike, who?
The same Los Angeles Chargers team, man, that he loves to beat up on.
They're not.
Mike, who are you at on there?
They're not the same team, and if you think they're the same team, you're a moron.
Just wait till he finishes his quarterback 1.
So Chargers are 6th toughest matchup against QBs. Last 8 regular season games for Patrick Mahomes, he's finished as QB 14 or worse. He's currently 15th in fantasy points per game at only 14.8 a game. All right. Now, we want to talk about how bad Anthony Richardson has been this year. All right. Can we all agree that Deshaun Watson has been worse than Anthony Richardson?
Why'd you bring up Deshaun Watson?
Just answer the question.
I don't give a fuck about Deshaun Watson.
Oh, my gosh. So you'd say Deshaun Watson is a worse quarterback than Anthony Richardson, right? Right?
No.
You'd agree?
Anthony Richardson, not fantasy football, but as a quarterback, sucks.
Yeah, they both kind of suck here.
But that's my point. All right. You know, Deshaun Watson is a terrible QB right now. Like so bad to the point where they're making jokes that he's a better person than an NFL QB right now. All right. So Deshaun Watson has 42.5 total points this year. Again, we talked about it. Mahomes has 44.5. Mahomes only has 2 more points than Deshaun Watson on the year. All right.
This has nothing to do with the matchup, though.
I'm talking, this is in comparison of how bad Mahomes has been. You are not shedding light on how, like, basically Mahomes is just a streamable quarterback at this moment.
Do you see who's out for the Chargers, though?
Derwin James?
And Joey Bosa.
Yeah, Derwin James got suspended, which was a little bogus in my opinion. But, you know, needless to say, I still think John Harbaugh knows how to run a professional offense. Like, Staley's defense is not John Harbaugh's defense. Staley's
Harbaugh's
defense is
also never seen Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, he's watched him play. He's
never coordinated a game against him.
All right, and this will be the first one.
And with no running game, I'm assuming Mahomes is going to throw a lot on a team that's depleted of their best pass rusher and best pass or defender.
What, is Rashee Rice going to have 3 touchdowns and 20 receptions? You
do know Travis Kelce is there still, right?
Who hasn't done jack shit?
Oh my God, it takes 1 game for the best tight end in our generation to do something.
Can you give us your sweet pick, Mike?
My sweet pick, it's a tough one here because, like you said, Dylan, it's a slog of a matchup. Chiefs are the 3rd toughest matchup for running backs, 11th toughest for wide receivers. We had the Justin Herbert, may not play. He may play, situation. Then you got the Chargers are the 11th toughest for running backs, 5th toughest for wide receivers. So I guess if I have to pick, a guy here, I want Rice because he's 6th in targets for wide receivers and 3rd in catches after Thursday Night Football. But there's literally nobody else on the Chiefs that I want to start in this matchup. Or like even on the Chargers, really. I don't want to start anybody from this matchup.
Who you out of?
If he plays, you don't start Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Sorry. Quinn Johnston, don't start him either. I get the allure of him with the scoring, the 3 touchdowns, the past whatever games. Don't fall in that trap. Dobbins, rough game last week, could be again this week. If you have a better option, don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, I don't really want to play Dobbins in this matchup even either. So I'm with you there. Next game we got here on the docket, the Cleveland Browns taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Got the Browns getting a 1.5 on the road. No Devontae Adams for the Raiders. Hamstring, or he doesn't really want to play with them anymore. He's taking his ball going home, maybe. We'll start with you, Ike. Who are you in on in this matchup?
I'm hoping for it, but it's got to be Jerome Ford. Chuba Hubbard gashed him. Who else is there for the Browns right now? I hope the game plan is surrounded around him at least a little bit. So if you are struggling with your RB2 spot or flex spot, put in Jerome Ford and hope for the best.
Yeah, I don't love it, man. Deontay Foreman getting a lot of work. Like you said, I don't really love anyone in this Browns offense. Mari Cooper got going a little bit last week. But Mike, who are you going with here? Who are you in on? And why is the right answer Brock Bowers?
No, it's Jerome Ford still. I mean,
Brock Bowers.
He's the low-hanging fruit. He's the low-hanging fruit. I'm trying not to pick every low-hanging fruit.
Mike, he's not the low-hanging fruit. Sell me on Brock Bowers.
Jerome Ford can win you a week because Chuba Hubbard won you a week last week. Doing the same things Jerome Ford can do.
I want to see what Jerome Ford's done this year.
Brock Bowers.
Not shit. Same as Chuba Hubbard until last week.
Brock Bowers was the tight end 1 until Dallas Goedert decided to explode and go from tight end 13 to tight end 1. So, like, Brock Bowers is well known.
Tight end is.
It does, but Brock Bowers is well known here. Jerome Ford has been struggling, and after Thursday Night Football, the Cowboys are no longer the best matchup for running backs because they held Devin Singletary to 4.8 PPR points. Now it's the Raiders, allowing 31.1 points a game to running backs. They've allowed the 5th most rushing yards a game, 5.1 yards per carry. Max Crosby's out. Ford has dominated the snaps. Last week, 79% performance.
I just don't see who else would do much.
I just told you Brock Bowers.
I mean,
Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ike. Who don't you like in this matchup? Who's sour for you?
I would go probably Deshaun Watson. I don't really want to play him in any single situation ever.
Not even Superflex.
not even Superflex. I'd play Mahomes over a Michael Plant, even though they're so close in points.
I would too.
I'd play.
But it's not the point. That's not the point. It's
I'm just fucking with you. I'm just messing with you. But yeah, I'm on Watson, which in return means David Njoku and Amari Cooper.
No, Njoku was ruled out.
Yeah, he's out.
Oh, was he now? Okay.
Oh, was he now?
Nice pickup, Gary.
How about you, Mike? Who are you out on?
I'm out on Zamir White through 3 games now.
Of course you are.
You've
been out on him every week.
I don't want to pick the low-hanging fruit.
Every week.
I don't want to pick the low-hanging fruit.
Oh, okay. I mean,
butthole.
I watch fantasy football now. You guys watch that. You know who Adam Rank is. He loves Zamir
Never
White.
heard of an Adam Rank. Did you say Adam Tank?
So, no, it's really not a low-hanging fruit here because Alexander Mattison has played more snaps than Zamir White so far.
But who's been starring Zamir White ever other than week 1?
At
least I hope not.
Need an RB2. I mean, not every team is Dylan over here where they hoard 6 running backs or they max out of their running backs for the roster.
What you got to do, man.
Do what you gotta do.
He hasn't had a running back finish higher than running back 30.
I'm not arguing against Zamir White. I know he's toast. I agree with you. You just gave me a spiel for 5 minutes. How you didn't want to take the low-hanging fruit. Then you give me Zamir White, who just didn't do anything against the Panthers.
Exactly. And what did I say last week? If he can't do it last week, he's bench his ass.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
he's toast. Droppable.
Confirming. I mean, but everybody knew, you didn't want to start Deshaun Watson 100 weeks ago. Not 500 weeks, but you get my point where you don't want to talk about low-hanging fruit.
I mean, 500 weeks ago, he was suspended, so.
You get my point.
All right.
That's awesome.
We got Sunday night football game.
Going off the tracks.
Yeah, we are, man. We're hour 15 into the show. We still got 3 goddamn more games to talk about. We got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Baltimore Ravens in Sunday night football.
I blame Mike. He takes too personal.
Bill's getting 2.5 points on the road here, even though they're 3-0. Ravens 1-2. Ike, you're not muted, so we'll start with you. Who are you in on, the Buffalo Bills or the Baltimore?
I want to just fuck around so bad right now and say Mark Andrews just because fuck it, but no, it's not. I'm going Derrick Henry. I think the Ravens found the way to win a football game, and I think they're going to want to get Derrick Henry the ball as much as they can. And like we thought in the offseason, the option between Henry and Lamar Jackson could be deadly, so why not use that to your advantage?
Yeah.
Stop throwing the ball so much. You don't need it, clearly.
Derrick Henry's he's not there to be that guy, Ike.
Apparently not, but they used him that last week to be that guy.
Yeah, that was the kitchen sink game for them for sure. But this is another kitchen sink game. You don't want to fall to 1-3 here if you're the Ravens, so I can see that being totally possible. LaPlante, I'm going to kick it
I mean,
you,
they got a cushion. The Bengals
control that clock.
They got a cushion.
Who are you in on?
I am in on Khalil Shakir. Fourth best matchup for wide receivers, 1 of 8 teams, 40-plus fantasy points to wide receivers. He is 14 of 14 on the year and hasn't had one drop. He's the only wide receiver with 14-plus targets on the year and 100% catch rate. And he finished as wide receiver 18 last week, and I fully expect him to lock in another top 20 performance this week.
His catch rate was one of the highest in the league last year, too, so that's just his thing, man. He's just uber efficient. I'm all about Khalil Shakir, too, as well. He deserves to be in your lineup now. You at least got to find him in a flex play, wide receiver 3 territory, for sure. But, Mike, who are you out on here in the Ravens-Bills matchup?
We touched on it earlier. It's Zay Flowers. Bills are the 6th toughest matchup for wide receivers, which is impressive considering all the players that left their secondary this year. The best wide receiver matchup or best wide receiver performance this year that the Bills have allowed was Christian Kirk, who, like I said, finished as wide receiver 23 last week, and it was mostly garbage time. So this defense is legit. They're only allowing 5.9. No, my apologies. This is about Zay Flowers, and this is why I'm kind of like off on Zay Flowers. He's only averaging 5.9 yards per target. All right, these are some players that have a higher yards per target than him. Jake Bobo for the Seahawks, Lil Jordan Humphrey for the Denver Broncos, a guy named Jalen Brooks for the Cowboys, and Brandon Powell for the Vikings. All have higher yards per target than Zay Flowers. He's getting the volume, but man, it's nothing.
Screens.
It's just dink and dunks. Yeah, it's just dink and dunks. Like
college offense.
He's got a good floor. That's about it, though. He's got no ceiling at the moment.
I mean, but is that not what we expected from Zay Flowers, though? That's pretty much, you said what we expected from him. That was.
I would like to see more touchdowns.
We wanted more consistency. He was drafted as wide receiver 2 in the wide receiver 2 ranges this year. That's wide receiver 3 behavior.
Okay. He's wide receiver 25, so, and at least what I'm looking at, so he's borderline wide receiver.
Michael Plant's right, man. He's outside wide receiver 2, so he fucking sucks.
Even though he was going around wide receiver 25, but yeah, he's got 25 targets in 3 weeks, but
it's mainly because it's we love this format, but it's because it's PPR. I mean, like you change it to half PPR, and he is wide receiver 30.
I just see you, man. You got something against Zay Flowers, and I think it's that little bit of love you still got for Rashad Bateman and all those best ball leagues that you drafted. You're still holding out hope for that, I think. But
no, it's just inconsistent. I mean, Zay Flowers is nice in best ball because you don't have to decide when you want to play him.
I'm tired of this. Like, I'm kicking it to you.
Who
are you out
Flower?
on, man? Yeah.
Can I say all the tight ends in this game?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, cool. Because Mark Andrews has under 10 points in every game. Isaiah Likely has been nothing since week 1. And Dalton Kincaid, although he had a good week last week, he was tied in 5. It was only 53% snap share, which is weird. And the week before, it was only 42%. And week 1, it was 84%. So I don't know what's going on there, why he's losing so many snaps or what's going on, but it's a little alarming for where you drafted him.
Blowing out teams lately. Like in one game, he got hit in the head and had to go out of the game. So Dalton Kincaid has just had some stretch of bad luck where the game script has not benefited him. So I agree with you about Andrews, but I disagree with you about Kincaid.
He's also never seen more than 5 targets in the game, so not great.
Because of the game script, they don't need him. Because they've been
they needed him. What was it? Week 1 when he got 2 targets?
That was the game where I said he got donked in the head. And
donked in the head.
he's had a stretch of bad luck as far as the game script and
literally he is touchdown dependent, which I mean most tight ends are now.
I disagree with you about Kincaid. That's all, because this is going to be a game that we expect will be back and forth maybe. It's not going to be just a blowout.
I think it's going to be a slugfest like you guys were alluding to a previous game. I don't know which one. But I think it's going to be a lot of running. They're going to want to use James Cook a lot. They're going to want to use Derrick Henry a lot. Maybe a few big plays here and there. Maybe Zay Flowers hopefully gets loose or something like that.
Another good stat here from Albert. I like that.
How about that?
So he's well known, Dylan. He's
I guess,
kind of a low-hanging fruit.
Me. Looking at the Monday Night Football matchups, there's 2 again this week, I guess. 2, 1.5 maybe, because nobody's really watching the Tennessee Titans taking on the Miami Dolphins, I don't think. Could be a battle of Will Levis taking on Tyler Snoop Huntley, maybe. Titans favored on the road by 1 here.
If you're lucky, it's Tim Boyle.
Yeah, I still can't get over the fact that Brian Callahan in his post-game presser after week 1 or 2 when he said Will Levis can't be doing stuff like that. He's
basically called him an idiot.
He said he's a grown-up. I still can't get over that, man. It's going to stick into my mind forever. It's just absolutely fantastic. But, Mike, we'll start with you. And I'm sorry, you have to pick somebody here who you're in on in this matchup. And I think the only possible answer here is Tony Pollard. But I'll let
you after last week.
Tony
Even
Pollard,
after...
Devon Achane. That's really the only guys I'm interested here. But who are your thoughts? Who are you thinking?
I mean, throw out last week for Tony Pollard. They got down so early, so fast. They just abandoned the running game. Miami is the 6th best. Yeah, Miami's the 6th best matchup for running backs. Pollard's the clear leader of the backfield. 64% of the snaps. The Spears 39%. You can make an argument for Achane as well, but Tennessee is a tough matchup on the ground for running backs. Achane has not been as efficient as he was last year. Shocker, regression to the mean. So it's Achane and Tony Pollard, and if you got Calvin Ridley, sit him on the bench if you can.
Like, let's say you. Who you in on?
I agree.
Are you guys trying to sell Tyreek Hill right now? Jalen Waddle? I mean, I don't know if you can get a whole lot for Jalen Waddle, but I think you still get a pretty decent amount for Tyreek Hill. Are you trying to get out from him?
I don't think you can right now. For what you want, there's just no way.
If you're 0-3 and looking to make a change, yeah, I can understand why. But it is what I said. Tyreek Hill's value is at an all-time low.
You'll take a hit no matter what.
Are those wide receivers your sour plays here?
They are. Yeah, Hill and Waddle. It's no Tua. Tennessee's 3rd toughest matchup for wide receivers. This is just going to be like what Ike thinks the Bills and Ravens game is going to be. This is just going to be a run the ball out game. It's going to be a very quick one.
Yeah. No, hopefully.
Yeah, I was going to say
everyone's
Calvin
sake-
Ridley too. I think Calvin Ridley is going to have a rough game. Same with DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, hopefully for everyone's sake, it is a quick game.
One of those four
Latch on the
will
other
catch
one.
a touchdown, but good luck predicting which one.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at the other Monday night game that we do want to watch is the Seattle Seahawks, the 3-0 Seattle Seahawks, taking on the Detroit Lions. Seahawks getting 3.5 points on the road. Ike, we'll go ahead and start with you. Who's your sweet play here? And I'm assuming, no, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it, but who do you got?
Both Lions running backs. Even if you, for some reason, drafted both, I'd be playing them both because they just seem to constantly put up top 20 performances. 2 weeks ago, or maybe even a week ago, they were both a running back one. So, yeah, I would just keep rolling them out no matter what. Week one? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Okay, then. Gibbs will get the targets and carries, obviously. Montgomery is going to get the red zone. He's also going to get targets, too, as well. So, yeah, I like both of them for sure. And Amon-Ra St. Brown because he is the main target option now.
Mm-hmm. Byron Murphy's also out for the Seahawks, and so is the other defensive tackle. Totally blanking on his name right now for Seattle.
Aaron Reed, maybe?
Byron Murphy?
I said Byron Murphy's out. The other guy is out as well.
I don't know the other guy's name.
It could be a run funnel. I'm sure if Jamie's listening, he can help us out here. But Mike, who you in on here in this matchup?
JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Detroit is the second best matchup for wide receivers. And they are the worst for running backs. So, week 2, Jackson Smith-Njigba saw 16 targets in a game that they couldn't run the ball. Zach Charbonnet had 38 yards on the ground on 14 attempts against the Patriots.
Leonard Williams, boys.
Leonard Williams. I forgot he was on the Seahawks, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
No, the run defense has been good because of Byron Murphy and him, and with him being out, man, David Montgomery, I feel, is the top 12 guy this week for sure. But go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. It's just, in games where I don't see the Seahawks being able to run the ball, which, again, you can't run the ball against the Detroit Lions. I'll tell you why, because, in my sour picks. So they're going to need JSN this week to beat the Lions if they want to. So I can see it totally being another 10-plus target week for JSN.
You just go right into your sour picks too, man. You alluded to it already. Why Zach Charbonnet?
I mean, we're talking about the worst matchup for running backs. The best running back performance so far through 3 weeks against the Lions was Kyron Williams week 1, and he was RB21, and that's only because he scored a touchdown. All right, they are allowing only 8.8 PPR points a game to running backs. The next closest at number 2 is Pittsburgh at 14.5. We're talking about a 6-point difference here. It is just impossible to run against the Lions right now, so I imagine that Seattle will abandon the run game. So I'm sitting Kenneth Walker or Charbonnet, whoever the starter is, get him on your bench.
Yeah, I'm so far out on Charbonnet this week. It's not even funny. He's not an efficient running back in the first place, and in this matchup, it's just not going to work out. The only way he brings you value this week if he gets a short yardage touchdodown
or a bunch of targets.
Mm-hmm. Ike, is that where you were leaning Charbonnet, or is there somebody else on your mind here?
Jared Goff. 3 straight games. He's finished as a QB 15 or lower. First time he's done that since week 10, 11, and 12 of 2022. So it's been a rough stretch for the start of the year for Goff as a Lion.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can see that. And we kind of alluded to it. We think the Lions just going to be able to run through this Seahawks defense as well, even though Mike McDonald's done a really good job with the defense, but with them being banged up, man, it could end up being a shootout mode here, at least for fantasy purposes. We hope so. But guys, that wraps it up. This was another fun episode. Just want to remind everyone, you're still listening, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel.
We do have a question.
Yeah, we have a couple.
What do we got?
So Ray wants to know, should he play the Vikings defense against the Packers or Saints defense against the Falcons?
Still going Vikings.
I would still go Vikings.
I'm also playing.
People keep saying that defense is being bananas right now. So,
well, look who they've played already. They've played Brock Purdy,
CJ Stroud,
CJ Stroud, it hasn't mattered who they play. And if Jordan Love starts and he's hobbled, how is he going to be able to move around in the pocket with all the blitzes and stuff coming?
And what they're saying after the game,
think...
where like Purdy is saying like that scheme was different or insane, whatever it was. So yeah, Flores is scheming up some shit for a guy who's coming off an injury that might be disastrous. And even if it's Malik Willis, then it could be bad, even though he's looked good.
And then he's got one last one here. Should he play Ayuk, Jennings versus the Patriots, or Deontay versus the Bengals? Standard league, 6 points a touchdown.
Deontay.
Sitting Waddle, Pittman, and Kupp is out. Playing Rice as wide receiver 1. This is one where I'd play Deontay Johnson over Ayuk and Jennings. Right.
Yep.
Against the Bengals. That's a solid, like, go talk to Joe Bond. I don't know if you're a membership, if not, go to fantasysixpack.net/plans to get it, access to Joe's rankings. But Deontay's a top 15 wide receiver, if I remember correctly, for him this week. Like, that's how high, he is on Deontay this week. And he's a top 10 ranker so far through 3 weeks. So we trust him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we trust the target share that Johnson saw last week, 36% or whatever it was. Gotta love it. Before we get out of here, though, I want to remind everyone, please check us out on the Sunday Social Show on Sunday morning, starting at 10:30 Eastern time. We'll have Alan Sandage on to talk his best bets. Joe Bond, we talked about, top 3 ranker in the Fantasy Pros consensus right now. He'll be on to talk his rankings. Myself, Michael Plant, Jordan Schultz will be talking start sits for an hour from 11 to noon. And then we have where you make your money, guys. We have the DFS guys, Chris Robin and Keith Fleming, on to talk DFS, all your DraftKings, FanDuel, all your needs there. Really best in the business. We're getting another question here, guys. Go ahead and answer it for them. RBs are Josh Jacobs, Jordan Mason, Zeke Akers, Bucky Irvin. Should I trade Jordan Mason for Swift and Rashad White?
No.
I'd stay pat with Jordan Mason with the news of CMC might be out longer after coming back from Germany. I know it's
I don't even want the James Conner or Swift or Rashad White. Keep Jordan Mason.
Yeah, keep Jordan Mason on that one.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself.
You literally can't.
But for I can't even close the show out now. But for Mike and Ike, I'm Dylan Clemens. We'll talk to you guys next week. But for now, the candy shop is closed. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.